The unthinkable is finally happening. Apple, the company that spent years perfecting the glass slab, the design purist that prides itself on ultimate simplicity and absolute control, is about to bend. And it's not just bending its phones, it's bending its own ironclad principles. In a tectonic shift that is sending shockwaves through the entire global technology industry, Apple is not only building its first ever foldable iPhone, but it is turning to its oldest and fiercest rival, Samsung, to make that dream a reality. This isn't merely a new product announcement. This is a profound story of strategic surrender, a high-stakes gamble on a failing market, and an incredibly uneasy alliance that is poised to redefine the future of every single device we carry in our pockets. So, what is truly going on behind the heavily guarded, closed doors in Cupertino, California, and Seoul, South Korea? Today, we are peeling back the layers of this multi-billion-dollar secret. We'll explore exactly why Apple, a corporation so famously obsessed with controlling every last screw and every single pixel of its vast supply chain, is now being forced to hand over the most critical, most defining component of its next flagship device to its arch nemesis. We will reveal the exclusive next-generation panel technology that Samsung possesses, a technology so advanced and so difficult to manufacture that no other company on the entire planet can currently match it to Apple's exacting standards. And most importantly, we will investigate the billion-dollar question: can the iFold, or iPhone Fold, whatever they ultimately decide to christen it, single-handedly rescue a foldable market that, right now, is teetering on the very brink of collapse? Stick with us, because the details of this corporate drama are far juicier than you can possibly imagine. Let's begin with the bombshell confirmation that has the entire industry buzzing. According to a highly placed source deep within the display industry, the gears are already turning at a furious pace. Samsung Display is officially and concretely aiming to begin the mass production of the panels for Apple's very first foldable smartphones in the fourth quarter of this year, 2025. Just let that sink in for a moment. While we are all going about our daily lives, a secret production line is being meticulously retooled for what is arguably one of the most anticipated and certainly one of the riskiest product launches in the entire history of Apple Incorporated. The timeline is breathtakingly aggressive. This fourth quarter production start is designed to meet a very specific, and now public, launch schedule for this new revolutionary phone line. The launch window is firmly set for the second half of 2026. That is less than 2 years from now. For a product category that Apple has never even dared to touch before, this is moving at absolute light speed. The inside source stated, and I quote, "Samsung Display will begin the production of the panels intended for Apple's first folding iPhones early in the fourth quarter to meet the launch schedule of the new phone line." There is no ambiguity there. This is happening. And to facilitate this monumental task, Samsung Display, which is 84.8% owned by Samsung Electronics, is deep into the process of converting an entire manufacturing line at its massive facility in Asan, South Chungcheong, into an Apple-dedicated powerhouse. The source added that this conversion is already in its final stage. This isn't just a partnership, it's a deep physical integration of two rivals' manufacturing destinies. A spokesperson from Samsung Display, when reached for comment, predictably declined to say anything, shrouding the project in even more mystery. But why is this happening now? The answer lies in the dismal state of the very market Apple is about to enter. The foldable dream, pioneered by Samsung itself back in 2019, has soured. The market is experiencing deeply sluggish growth. According to the market consultancy Counterpoint, global foldable smartphone shipments in 2024 saw tepid growth of just 2.9% year-on-year. That is practically stagnant. Worse still, the outlook for 2025 is actively downbeat. Gene Park, a senior analyst at Counterpoint, delivered a chilling verdict. "I don't see many positives this year, and we are actually expecting negative growth for the segment, which will be a first. For the first time ever, the foldable market is projected to shrink." Consumers have been put off by sky-high prices, lingering questions about screen durability, and the infamous crease, and a lack of a truly compelling reason to switch from their reliable and much cheaper slab phones. So, into this bleak landscape, Apple prepares to ride in like a knight in shining armor. The hope, the prayer from everyone in the industry is that Apple's Midas touch can turn things around. The same analyst, Gene Park, believes that a foldable iPhone could be the catalyst the market desperately needs. It is definitely not a sign of the market peaking, rather, it is a sign of regrouping before 2026, which is expected to be exciting and rejuvenating for the segment with the entry of Apple. This brings us to the core of the issue: Apple's forced reliance on Samsung. Apple, like any smart manufacturer, absolutely prefers a multi-vendor system. It pits suppliers against each other to drive down prices and ensure a stable supply. But when it comes to the incredibly complex world of foldable panels, Apple has no choice. It is being forced to rely solely on Samsung Display, at least for the initial launch, due to one simple fact: Samsung is light years ahead of everyone else. A source familiar with the supply chain dynamics put it bluntly: Apple would like to have multiple suppliers, but for now, there is a big disparity in yields and production capacity between Samsung Display and others, because Samsung Display has a proven track record as the supplier for Galaxy foldable phones. Let's pause on that word, yield. In manufacturing, yield is everything. It's the percentage of perfect, usable products that come off a production line. For something as mind-bogglingly complex as a foldable organic light-emitting diode panel, achieving a high yield is the holy grail. Imagine baking 1,000 sheets of a paper-thin, self-illuminating cake that has to be perfectly uniform and also capable of being folded in half 200,000 times without cracking. In the early days, you might only get a handful of perfect cakes. The rest are thrown out, costing you a fortune. Samsung has spent nearly a decade and untold billions of dollars perfecting that recipe. They've endured the public failures, refined the material science, and optimized the machinery to a point where they can produce these miraculous screens at a scale and quality that nobody else can touch. That proven track record is Apple's golden ticket, and also its golden cage. Samsung has eaten the research and development costs, solved the manufacturing nightmares, and scaled production for their own Galaxy Z Fold and Z Flip lines. They have the patents, the expertise, and the factories ready to go. The level of engineering required to create a screen that can be bent hundreds of thousands of times without breaking while maintaining perfect color and brightness is just staggering. If you're finding this deep dive into the brutal realities of tech rivalries as fascinating as I do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps tell the algorithm that these are the stories you want to see. So who are the other players? Why can't Apple just top someone else? Well, let's look at the competition. China's BOE is a major display manufacturer, and it does produce foldable panels for Huawei. However, according to the industry source, its quality remains significantly lower than what Apple demands. Apple's standards for fit, finish, and reliability are legendary, and for a first-generation product this risky, they cannot afford any compromises. BOE is currently a supplier for Apple's standard iPhone models, but it's revealing that they are still excluded from supplying panels for the Premium Pro line due to an apparent lag in quality. If they can't meet the bar for a flat Pro screen, they are nowhere near ready for a foldable one. Then there is LG Display, another major Korean panel maker and a key Apple supplier for the iPhone and Apple Watch. Surely they would be a contender. Apparently not. Another source from the local display industry confirmed that LG is sitting this one out entirely. Given the limited market size for foldable phones, LG Display doesn't have a plan to produce any foldable display for either Apple or other manufacturers, the source revealed. This is not necessarily a sign of failure, but a calculated strategic pivot. LG Display has been pouring vast resources into other futuristic display avenues, such as the transparent and rollable screens that have wowed audiences at tech shows. They appear to be betting on a different horse in the great race for the screen of the future, ceding the foldable battlefield to Samsung, at least for now. This leaves Samsung Display as the undisputed king of the hill, the sole gatekeeper to Apple's foldable ambitions. Han Chang-wook, a researcher at the display-focused market tracker UBI Research, predicts that Samsung Display could maintain its market dominance through 2026, as it is the sole supplier of Apple's folding iPhone in the initial stage. But the story doesn't end with a simple fold. This partnership is a gateway to even more advanced technology. According to analyst Chung Won-suk of IM Securities, Apple's plans go far beyond just a new form factor. Starting with the foldable smartphone in 2026, Apple also plans to integrate other cutting-edge panel features into its entire product ecosystem. The key technology here is something called COE, which stands for Color Filter on Encapsulation. In simple terms, this technology removes a bulky layer called the polarizer and integrates its function more efficiently. The result? A significant improvement in screen brightness and a major reduction in power consumption. It makes the display thinner, lighter, and more efficient. For a user, this translates into tangible benefits: a screen that's easier to see outdoors, and, more importantly, longer battery life. This COE technology is slated to come not just to the foldable, but to the existing non-foldable iPhones and even the iPad lineup as early as 2027. This shows that the collaboration with Samsung is about securing a pipeline of next-generation display tech for Apple's entire future. While Samsung is poised to make a fortune as Apple's exclusive supplier, they are not simply resting on their laurels and playing the role of a passive parts provider. They are fighting their own war. After pioneering the foldable market, Samsung has recently been dethroned. China's Huawei, employing a clever two-track strategy of releasing both premium and more budget-friendly foldable lines, has now claimed the highest market share in the foldable segment. Price-cutting Chinese smartphone makers have caught up fast, and Samsung is feeling the heat. So how does the Korean tech giant plan to turn the tide? By taking an uncharted path. Samsung is developing a radical trifold phone, a device that can be folded not once, but twice to allow for an even bigger, more tablet-like screen when fully opened. In a stunning announcement, Roh Tae-moon, the head of Samsung Electronics' entire smartphone business, confirmed that the trifold phone will be released within this year. This is an incredible power move. At the exact same time Samsung is building the panels for Apple's first foldable, they are preparing to leapfrog the entire industry with a device that makes a standard bifold phone look like old news. The chess moves being played by these tech titans are absolutely fascinating, and we will be tracking every single one. To make sure you don't miss our next breakdown of who is winning the global tech wars, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. So what does this all mean for the future? We are witnessing the dawn of a new, incredibly complex world order in the smartphone industry. Apple's entry into the foldable space in 2026 will almost certainly legitimize the entire category, transforming it from a niche gadget for early adopters into a mainstream product. This will be the rising tide that lifts all boats. Samsung, in the short term, wins big. They will have a guaranteed multi-billion-dollar revenue stream from their biggest rival, cementing their technological leadership and funding their own future innovations, like the trifold. But for Apple, this is a bitter pill to swallow. The company that famously proclaims, "Designed by Apple in California," will now have a device whose most essential feature is almost entirely designed and manufactured by Samsung in Korea. It represents a loss of control, an admission of dependency that must be grating for the executives in Cupertino. Inside the pristine walls of Apple Park, where every product decision is debated with almost religious fervor, this must feel like a necessary heresy. This uneasy alliance forges a new, tense dynamic between the two giants. It's a symbiotic relationship born of necessity. But what happens in 2027 or 2028 when LG Display or BOE finally catch up and Apple can finally bring a second supplier online? Will this fragile strategic truce shatter, and will the friendly rivalry turn hostile once again? The future of our phones is being folded right now in a secret factory in Asan, and the consequences of this single deal will be unfolding for years to come. The stakes have never been higher. The entire industry is holding its breath. And we will be right here to report on every new development as this incredible story unfolds. The band is coming.